Hello, it's Rebecca. Welcome to Seed of Power Week 2. We are discovering our design this past week. I hope that you took the test and you really looked into what those 4 letters meant and who you are and read a little bit about the descriptions. They're pretty good, pretty spot on. I mean, not exact, but pretty good. And I broke down things further for you through the weeks and kind of try to put it in perspective as far as what matters to God and how come it's important for you to know. We'll just be going over a little bit of that to just kind of drive it home. I want to just reiterate a few things and possibly hit on a couple of points that I didn't mention in the writing. I hope that you're enjoying the study so far and don't give up. Keep going. I hope that you are making it a priority and you are doing your part to grow and to become so that you can get on board with your purpose. Because as you'll see, if we don't know these things about ourselves, then we can't really grow. So this is step 1 of growing after we put God first and we realize that that is the most important thing. Nothing else matters if our roots aren't strong. So I really hope that you are making a conscious, intentional effort to connect more to God, to turn on praise music whenever you can. You guys, I have been so blessed by praise music. Our youth pastor, Isaac, he talked about don't let praise be karaoke, to really allow yourself to be speaking to God and listen to what those words are saying and speak them to God yourself. And it's so awesome for our soul to do that. So I really hope that you're turning it on in the car, you're turning it on at home, you're putting it in your ear whenever possible. Just keep that goodness coming into your soil and helping you to be full of nutrients. And connect to God through prayer. Schedule prayer times, do it in the shower, do it in the car, do it at night, do it at family time, like whenever you possibly have a chance to connect to God, to praise Him, to thank Him, to be grateful, to acknowledge that He's a part of your life, then you need to be doing that for sure. And the other thing is, let's just make sure that we're committing the time to answer all the questions at the end of each day, because I really thought about those questions and what they should say so that you could really have an opportunity to really think it through and to help it to drive it home. So I just hope that you are doing that. I would like to go in and talk to you a little bit about why it's so important for us to know our personality type. It's something that we don't really learn in school. I think sometimes they do one test and that's it in one class in a 3-year period or something. It's very, very minimal. It's certainly not something to a level that they can have an understanding around. And it's very sad because this builds our esteem. It builds what we believe and know about ourselves. And we want to build our esteem as much as possible, because certainly there's a lot of things around us that are always trying to tear us down. And so we want to get that trunk of who we are, that core, because remember, all the things on the branches of the things that we care about, none of those things are going to be able to be flourishing and sturdy and steady if we are not stable as an individual. So that's why even in when God tells us to love Him first, but the second commandment is to love others as ourselves, because we cannot love others effectively if we do not love ourselves. So this is part of loving ourselves, loving who we are, loving who God created us to be, embracing how special and unique and amazing we are. Don't be afraid to think those things about yourself, because you are. There is no one else like you. No one. When we add up your personality profile along with your strengths, your values, your experiences, your passions, there's no one like you. You have a unique calling and a unique role to fill in this world. So don't let the enemy keep you from shining and being who you're supposed to be. So as you learn and grow, you're going to know yourself better. But guess what? Then you can love and know other people better too. Because as you understand these letters, this personality profile, the way that people process information, the way they respond and react to the world, as you understand that about yourself, you can understand it about other people, and you can have patience and grace with people that used to bug the heck out of you. So now you can have a whole new perspective on your relationships and the way that the dynamics work within the work groups and the things that you have to deal with on a regular basis. So I hope that you really try to understand what we're talking about here. It's not just some ineffective information. It's very, very important. So dig in, try to pay attention, try to grasp it. I know it's complicated, but go over it and over it and try to understand, particularly about yourself, but I would love for you to understand those closest to you and those you work closely with as well. So one of the things that I also want to let you know is stop comparing yourself to other people. Like I just was talking about, you're so unique. It is ridiculous and a waste of time to try to compare yourself to anyone else. Anyone else's experiences, success, anything that's going on in their lives. The only thing that you have control over is you. You have control over you. And so that is just a distraction. And believe me, I'm guilty. I did it for most of my life. I didn't know what I offered the world. I had a low esteem. I didn't think that I was worthy of anything or important. And it distracted me because I looked at everyone else all the time and I was like, if only I could be them, if only I had that, if only this opportunity was given to me, if only I had the same kind of success. How come they have success and I'm not having success? And I was always comparing myself and it made me feel less than. When we compare ourselves, no one compares to us. So when we compare ourselves, we're always going to look at the good things about them and we're going to dull in comparison, right? But we want to focus on us and we want to focus on the good things about us and we want to minimize the bad things about us. But we cannot grow and become and be amazing if we're focusing on everyone else. It's a distraction. Know that, get that, and stop it. And so the other thing that I want to talk to you about is you need to be on purpose. And the way to do that is through understanding and knowing you and focusing on what God's saying to you and what your relationship with God, He will help to grow you and change you in the ways that you need as you listen to Him. So spending time with Him, guys, that's the secret. Don't skip it. Don't be too busy to grow. Don't be too busy to put God first in your life. So I want you to understand the different groups a little bit more. So I put it in, I think it was in the first or second day, and I said if you have these combinations, then this makes you in this group. So there's 4 different groups. Those groups are workers, connectors, entertainers, and thinkers. Now this is what I call them because I like to keep things pretty simple. So I think that kind of groups them nicely. So your workers are most people. If you have an S with a J at the end, so that means that you're a sensory person that really is all about their surroundings and observant and tactical, then you're a sensory person. And then if you have that J, then that means that you are also an organized person. So when you have somebody who's sensory and organized, then they really get things done. They make up 56% of the population. Most people are SJ. My husband is an SJ, and my daughter Madeline is an SJ. They get a lot of things done. You can count on them. They're stable. They can stay focused. They're capable. They are just really, really good. We need our workers because the workers are the ones that keep this world going and making things happen and be stable and strong. The next biggest group would be if you have an S, which you're sensory, so you're really aware of your world and you like to interact with it, but you also have a P instead of a J. So that means you're less structured, you're less maybe organized in the way that you like things presented to you in your life. So you don't like to live your life being an entertainer. You like to have fun. You don't like to live your life like on a super tight schedule or under all these rules and regulations. You have a free spirit. And so if you're an entertainer and maybe you've had a hard time kind of finding something as far as work or doing things in life that really satisfy you for long, it's just because you are a free spirit and you like new things and you enjoy making people laugh and you like the lighter things of life. You don't want to deal with the heavy things. And so embrace that about you. It's amazing. And then the next group would be only 8% of the population is an NF combination. So that means you're intuitive and emotional. And that is what I am. I'm an NF, and only 8% of all the population have that personality type. And this makes a lot of sense for me because I always felt a little bit like an outsider because I didn't like sports. I didn't really get it, didn't enjoy it. I don't enjoy a lot of things that people enjoy that are sensory, and I don't really notice a lot of things in my surroundings. I'm kind of in my head a lot, and what really, really matters to me is people. I care so much about what's going on in the minds of people and how people are connecting to one another. And so if you're an NF, you are very much a people person. You care about the bigger picture. You're a visionary possibly, and you are not really present in your reality a lot. You're kind of in your head. You're in the future. You're projecting yourself into the future and what could be. You're kind of idealistic about, you really want everybody, can't we all just get along and everything can just be fine? Do we have to take a side? Can we not just stay in the gray and make everyone happy and everyone feels good about who they are? And so NFs are a little more rare. But when you have one in your life, you probably know it, because they are all about people, all about relationships, all about making everyone happy. And they're very important and play an essential role. And I'm happy to have finally learned that I was that I was a connector, because I felt like I did not have any skills, because I wasn't good at the things that the world values. I kind of stunk at work, because you put some task or a screwdriver in my hand, I'll just wilt, because I don't like to work physically with my hands. I don't like to work physically doing really anything. I like to think and I like to talk and have deep discussions and conversation. And that is the way that I do my work, though, because through conversation like this, I teach and I inspire and I help people. And so if you are like me and you have that NF combination, then just don't worry anymore that you are a misfit and you don't fit in and things just seem to not satisfy you, because we are a little bit different, only 8% of the population. And then the last one I want to talk about, very, very rare, only 4% of the people, these are your thinkers. They have that N, so they're intuitive, but they also have that thinking thing, so that means they're very logical. So they kind of combine, instead of having that emotional side, what really makes them people, they have a thinking side that makes them very brilliant, and not necessarily high IQ, but just very brilliant in the way that they can think about things differently than the rest of the world. So these are the people that invent things. These are the people that come up with brand new ideas and concepts and can bring things together in a way that other people have never seen before. They're really just pretty amazing people, but they tend to not have like a ton of people skills. And even if they are very dynamic, because if they have an extroverted personality with that NT, they can be very dynamic. And so people are drawn to them because they're just so brilliant and amazing and different. But they don't usually keep relationships very well because they are just so different that the most important thing to them is the idea or what they're thinking about, what they're accomplishing, and not necessarily the people. And so sometimes they can run over people a little bit. And so if you happen to have that NT combination and are on here, then I want you to know that if you've struggled in life and you felt like you just couldn't quite get it right with people and your relationships have struggled, it's just because you were meant to be brilliant, and you can work on those relationships as you grow spiritually, but it wasn't what you were meant to do for your role in life. So each of those play a role. The workers, of course, they keep the world going. The entertainers keep us smiling and happy. The connectors, they're the ones that keep their glue to the relationships, and they bring people together and they help people to feel inspired and happy and rise up. And then your thinkers, you're just big think tanks. You're doing great things for our world that we need, because God's giving you insight that He hasn't given other people. So I hope that helps a little bit, just going over that again for you to understand what group and role that you're in. And then, of course, it breaks down even more as you get into it, because we have our introverted people and our extroverted that have similar roles within those. So let's just say if you're a worker but you have an I, or if you're a worker and you have an E, then that's going to present a little bit differently. So your I's are going to be the ones that are like behind the scenes working, and they're keeping everything strong and running and dealing with all the details. And your E's are usually the ones that are more up front, and they're kind of doing more of the communication, the front side of the businesses and the work. And so it's kind of interesting how all of that comes together. And then the other thing is, if you have a P or a J at the end, those are about how you like your environment. And this is one of the things that causes the most conflict in life amongst people. And that's because this is how you prefer things and how you like to live your life. And there's sometimes a conflict between those two people. So for instance, my husband is a J and I'm naturally a P, although I looked at my profile and I resonate more with an extroverted, intuitive, emotional, and then I'm supposed to be a P is what I test, but I actually resonate more with the judging because I'm kind of on the border, and I read the profiles so I went more with the ENFJ instead of the P. So you may find that if you're it's not exactly fitting you, read both. If you were kind of on the border about things, then read both and see which one you resonate most with, because that's just a way to try to describe you, but it's not always going to be the same. It's possible that I become more of a J because I've lived with my husband who's a J all of these years. So the reason why I'm telling you that is about that I am naturally a P and he's a J is he really likes things very organized. He is a very also logical thinker. He's a T, and so he likes things in a process and routine, and I am much more of a free thinker and I don't do things the same. And he is a filer, I am a piler, and he is super timely and I have no concept of time. And so it causes conflict, and this is how it happens in the world when you're working with other people or when you're in a family and you have these different personality types. You have conflict sometimes because you look at life differently. And so I just want to encourage you with that no matter which one you are, there are good things and bad things about each one, and we just have to try to come to a balance and a compromise when we're around other people that care about us and that it affects other people. Because just because this is who we are and this is what our natural disposition does, doesn't mean that we can't try to do things that are important for them. Like, I know that before Eric comes home, I need to try to straighten up the house a little bit. Otherwise, it's going to drive him crazy if there's stuff all over. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I know certain things that will set him off, and I've just learned to honor him with that. Same thing with your children. If you know that your child is you may be somebody who's not very organized and stuff, but your child needs a process and a routine, then you will see that very early on that you need to accommodate them to help them to have the environment to thrive. We want to bend our ways sometimes to help other people, so don't be afraid to do that. The other thing is, I want you to remember that in Romans 12, it's the verse that's about we all have different parts that come together and we together make something great, and it was meant to be that way. And so again, just accepting that we're all different, but we all are created for purpose, and we all hold a valuable place in the role of the body. And so in 1 Corinthians 12:22, it talks about the weaker parts are to be held with even more honor. And so you can interpret that however you want. And it could be, even you're disabled people, as we know, anyone who's been around a child that with disabilities or an adult with disabilities, they can be so enlightening to our world and help us to look at things differently. And so we're honoring them more, and they are giving something to us that other people can't. It can also just be like those lesser things that are very more obscure talents and more obscure things that people have and possess, that they kind of by the world are not respected, but they hold a very integral, meaningful part, a role. And so I want to just leave you with, make sure within your personality that you're seeking balance. And again, you are looking to try to please the people around you, because that is important. We can't just, this is who I am and that's it. We have to still try. Now, they also have to have grace with, yes, that is how you are, you get lost. And I accept that, or something like that, because this is something that my husband has always been challenged by with me. But we also want to try. We want to try to print a map and to be prepared before we go, right? So it's just a balance. And then I just want to remind you that when you seek God and when you put Him first and you invite Him into your life, then He will come in and He will be the one that changes you ultimately. So whatever weaknesses you have, whatever thing you need to overcome, if you let God in, He's going to do that work in you and help you and come alongside you to transform you. You don't have to do it all alone, connect to God this week. I look forward to hearing from you next week about what you think about your strengths and how you feel even more in love with who you are, because as we add those strengths in, you're going to be so excited about who you are. And you're also going to understand why you're not good at certain things and why it's okay. So I can't wait to talk to you next week. Have a great one.